I think that AI learning platforms, like if you were to tie Khan Academy with AI agents and eventually AI organizations, I think that would be really revolutionary because I know that big education, especially universities like Harvard, Cornell, Yale, Stanford, Duke University, Brown University, all these Ivy Leagues are all getting screwed. And the reason why this is because people don't want standardized results. They want something that is authentic and something that AI can't go ahead and replicate. So, what do I mean by this? Well, people want dynamic pathways, and that is that your input should get a different output every single time. So, what do I mean by this? So, let's take an artist. This person can go ahead, and when you give this person a piece of paper, he will make art that is different every single time. Well, this principle is the same thing about AI, and people are the same way. We all are all generalists. We don't need to be bound to a specific label. And the whole thing why this is so important is that many people have different interests, but yet we don't have the time because we're always stuck on a 9 to 5. We have many duties to go ahead and fulfill. Like we have kids, we have bills to pay, we have all this stuff that all needs to be paid. And yet our health is all diminishing at the same time. So there's always like constant running around the house trying to do 50 things at once. So this is why I really think that AI learning platforms are really beneficial because we all know that when you go ahead and not know anything, it almost seems like there are so many things that are kept. There are always so many types of information that is always gate kept. For instance, the business courses and all the nuances at Stanford, okay? Only the professors know about that information, okay? And what that means is that single mind is gatekeeping 3,000 students. And what the revolution with the AI learning platforms with AI agents is that information is going to become like water, where water is so abundant where the amount of the cost for all this information is just going to go remarkably down. Because if it's already on the internet, then that means it would go ahead and just be free. It would essentially just be free because all the information is already out somewhere and it's going to be out somewhere. Because we see content creators like Jay Hoovy, who was a Stanford MBA, and now he shares all the business secrets for free on YouTube. And I think all this knowledge that we're seeing on YouTube can all be applied to how people learn, because the whole new revolution that is happening on YouTube nowadays is that people are all knowing how to go ahead and outsource information. Because nowadays it used to be like you jumped on the boat 15 minutes because you were either a gamer, you came from Musically, you came from Vine, you did something, you came from Vivo. So those were basically like the main catch-up nets that people were all trying to fulfill. But now, since people are a little bit older, because we know that since we're having an aging population, we can't really go ahead and spend 5 years, for instance. We have to go ahead and really lock in. But since all these creators are now noticing a really interesting trend, and that is that people are now gaining years of information and minutes. So that whole principle can actually be applied to AI learning platforms, because people don't want to go ahead and spend years of their life learning standardized content. Because if there is something standard, that means that an AI robot could go ahead and already be trained, and people aren't slaves to some type of intellectual knowledge. So what do I mean by this? Well, if you have multiple interests, like let's say you wanted to go ahead and go bicycling, you had an interest in programming, and you also had an interest with aviation. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to go ahead and make a computer with a bicycle fly, and that was your weekend project. And now, since we have really good large language models that could actually go ahead and give you real-time data with sources that have all been checked and validated with Grok, Twitter, really good sources, what happens now is really interesting, because now the perpetual cycle to self-learning all begins. Because we all know that we are not bounded by the clock. And I think this whole fallacy of being somebody else's servant is all going down the water, because people now are all understanding the whole narrative of agency. And agency is so powerful nowadays because your smartphone is the gateway to the internet. And because of this, you could go ahead and make your own reality negotiable by my favorite person, Tim Ferriss. And because of this, reality is all negotiable. And what do I mean by this? Well, what you learn nowadays is going to be how you influence the world. Because simply put, what you watch is what you are. And I know that the content that you put in your mind eventually perceives your reality. And how does this all tie into this really cool learning platform and with AI agents and stuff like that? So we all know that because people are all dynamic and we all have specific interests and we all have specific knowledge that is all mostly untapped, because we go ahead and we spend our idle time essentially doom scrolling, liking things, doing all these mundane tasks that all go ahead and screw with our dopamine receptors. And because of this, we never go ahead and dive deep onto the things we really want to go ahead and do. So what I'm really interested about with all these really cool learning platforms is that the way they all make you learn content, because it's essentially like a motivational coach who gives you all the puzzle pieces in a way where it's one step at a time. It's one step at a time, meaning that when you go from step 1 to 2, you go ahead and master that process. And the whole thing all comes into play onto building something you want to go ahead and build. And that could be like, again, the flying digitalized bike that goes ahead and actually works because you went ahead and dived deep with learning how it works with this really cool learning platform with AI agents. And I really believe that AI agents are really the future because they're specific, but you could also make them general. They could scrape the internet if you want it to. You could also go ahead and make it contextual, or you can not make it contextual. You can make it autonomous, or you can not make it autonomous. You can make it semi-automatic, or you can make it automatic. And I really think that these versatile tools are so beneficial to finally learning what our hearts really desire. Because we all know that since all this information is basically kept behind closed curtains 24/7 around all these organizations, because there are basically two circles in life. One circle is what we perceive to others and how that person perceives us. And because of this interesting appeal, we all know that if the curtain is basically open, we would go ahead and finally see the secrets. And the thing is, all the secrets, the curtain has to be closed in order for us to have the magic. And because of that, we often don't want to go ahead and see the harsh truth. And what I'm really excited about with all these things that are all going to be integrated with all these AI learning platforms is that now you can finally go ahead and learn to your own heart's desires. And now, since all the information is essentially going to be $0 or essentially free, is that now all this gate kept information is all going to be wide open. And this revolutionary breakthrough is going to go ahead and reveal secrets from big pharma, big health, big tech, all these shady corporations, because now the information is all cut dry. And because of this, we're going to see mass adoption into things that we don't have the answers to, but eventually will all be solved with the help of AI and passionate thinkers and doers. Because this is what excites me every single day, is that now, since all the answers are all gonna be out, we finally have the ability to now understand the truth. So yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video about why AI learning platforms are really beneficial to not only me, but to you, but to everyone. And hopefully this disruption will open up the curtain.